Alright fellas, here we're back on Pokemon Masters, and today we're going to be looking at the rerun for Calem and Greninja, Neo Champion Calem specifically, because they're going to be rerunning for Pokemon Masters Day. So basically this is a very good rerun, honestly. This is one of the more hype reruns, or better reruns and more valuable ones for a lot of people, realistically speaking. So Calem and Greninja here, they initially dropped back in December, and they were the first ever, I don't know, actually I don't remember who released between him and Serena first, and I could look it up, but I don't care enough. But they were the first ever set of Neo Champion characters. Ever since then, we've obviously got the Galar and Kanto Neo Champions as well, but they set a pretty good precedent, right? They were very, very strong. They had a lot of great capabilities being master pairs and whatnot. And they were definitely amazing on release. Still some of the best sync pairs just in the game in general today. And yeah, so I don't think Calem's value as a sync pair has diminished pretty much at all. I still think he's extremely valuable, extremely worthwhile to pick up, and still really, obviously, really good, right? So let's go ahead and look at his abilities and see just what he's able to do and give you a good idea of what you can expect if you pull for him, you know, as well as with different move levels. So, they are a dark support sync pair, but they can also change their type between dark and water. And I don't know if their weakness changes. Nah, I guess, I'm going to guess it just doesn't because it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, they're weak to bug, whatever, doesn't really matter too much. It's honestly a pretty good type to be weak to because not many enemies are bug. But looking at their moves here, for the dark type, he has Brutal Swing and Water Shuriken. The moves don't really change, though, so don't worry about that. These aren't bad moves, 2-gauge spammables, whatever, you know, hit the enemy 2 to 5 times, Brutal Swing, it's all enemies. These have some very good abilities, especially when combined with Neo Champion Serena, but for Calem himself, we're not gonna consider Neo Champion Serena too much, but just know these are good abilities for her, but we'll go into these in a little bit later. We got his trainer move here, Glory of Understanding. It's a 2-gauge move here. It's one use only, and it applies gauge acceleration as well as raising all allies attack by 4, special attack and crit by 2. Pretty solid trainer move, right? Being able to buff both offenses as well as crit. Obviously, you can't max them, but he can raise them a very substantial amount, which is very, very nice, right? And of course, gauge acceleration. Awesome. And I skipped over it, but let's look at his stats. Look at the stats, level 140, 5 stars. He does have 509 speed, which is a very good speed tier. 307 defense, 293 special defense is also very solid on the defenses. 648 HP is probably about average. So overall, these are not bad stats at all. Offensive stats obviously suck, but whatever, right? He does also gain the Tech EX roll upon his rerun. Not worth it at all. You literally just gain the stats and that's it. But obviously with 6-star EX, you know, level 150, you know, Tech EX roll, he gets very high stats. His stats are extremely high with all of those considered, but, you know, most sync pairs are as well, right? So with just the EX, these are his stats, and they're obviously very, very good even afterwards. So, very, very nice stats, right? But anyway, back to the important parts of this kid. He's got Buddy Double Team here, which is probably probably the big thing that people are looking for here. Activation condition is when an ally's attack move hits a total of 10 times while the move is deactivated. This considers himself and allies. So basically, Brutal Swing hitting 3 times, it'll count for 3 hits. Water Shuriken hitting 2 to 5 times, it'll count for 2 to 5 hits, depending on how many times it lands. If your allies land a single move that isn't multi-strike or AoE, it counts as 1. If your ally lands a multi-strike move 5 times, it counts as 5, etc. Right? An AoE move is 3, or depending on however many enemies it hits, etc. So, not too bad to activate this. 10 moves is not that bad. Obviously, if you have Neo Champion Serena, it's the same condition. And the deactivation condition is when the move is used. It can be used a total of 2 times, and it buffs ally stats and applies the some field effects. So, 2 use is definitely very, very nice. You can use it pretty much as soon as it's able to be used, and then of course you can use it later on in the battle when you feel necessary. So, this is good here. Raises evasion of all allies by 2. Increases physical moves next of all allies by 2 when the user's sync move is dark type. Turns the field of play into a dark zone when the sync move is dark type. So, very, very good. And increases special moves next of allies by 2 when the sync move is water, and makes the weather rainy when the sync move is water. So basically, you change between your dark and water typing here depending on which move you use, Brutal Swing or Water Shuriken. You use Brutal Swing, you'll be able to activate the dark side of this trainer move here, or buddy move rather. If you use Water Shuriken, you'll be able to activate the water side of this buddy move. You'll always know what type your sync move is, or what type your Greninja is because of the sync move as well. You'll be able to notice, right? Very, very easy to tell. So you can pretty much activate either Rain or Dark Zone depending on, what type of move you're using, what your allies are, etc., right? Because if you're obviously going to run him with a lot of water characters, you're going to want Rain and special moves next. If you run him with a lot of dark characters, you're going to want the Dark Zone, physical moves next, etc., right? So this guy is definitely very diverse just from this ability alone and what he's able to do. Not to mention the fact he's able to buff evasion, which is very, very good, as well as having the trainer move buffing crit, attack, and special attack. He's got very wide options in terms of his buffing. So yeah, not to mention these effects here help out allies in general, not just dark or water allies. The physical moves next and special moves next boost is very, very good for pretty much any character that it obviously directly benefits, right? So, like, for example, if you want to run him alongside someone like Adaman, right? Not the greatest example, but still, it's not a bad one. You can get the physical moves next whenever his sync move is dark, and obviously Dark Zone is not going to negatively impact Adaman or anything like that, right? Doesn't matter, he just needs Sun. So, physical moves next is just going to be a good buff. Obviously, again, you can run him with any water or dark character. For example, Dark here. Physical Dark especially is a very big buff. Special Costume Zinnia, the recently released Akari, very, very good example. Sydney, Master Royale, these type of characters, Fall Hilbert, benefit very, very well from these physical moves next boost, Dark Zone, etc. Even the special attackers like Neo Champion Marnie, Karen, Cyrus, who does set Dark Zone on his own, but whatever. I think you can still use multiple Dark Zone setters. Summer N. These type of characters can still benefit directly from the Dark Zone, as well as support capabilities from the trainer move here. Still very, very good stuff. And that's not even considering the fact that he's got the Master Passive, as well as his different passive skills. So yeah. If we look at his Master Passive, it's Callous Pride, powering up physical attacks of allies, and the more Callous allies you have, the greater the physical boost for those moves, which is up to 50% power boost as well as 31% damage reduction. So physical boost is going to be very, very strong, right, for any physical ally you bring. Also, when it comes to water types, though you obviously want to benefit ally special water allies because the special moves next, you can definitely benefit some physical water allies because of the Master Passive here, such as, Gloria and Urshifu here, Lodge Rosa, these type of characters as well who are physical, but still can benefit from, like, the Master Passive and just having Rain being set and whatnot, right? So, helps out a lot of characters. And again, can also help ones that aren't dark or water, even then. And other than that, we'll look at the passive skills here, which are very different between his water and dark self. If we look at this here, I think this is the water one. Yeah, this is the water passive skill. So if he has Water Shuriken used, or his sync moves water, whatever you want to consider it as, he'll be having these passive skills here. He's got the Stoic Dark transformation, which means basically every time he uses Brutal Swing, it'll change his passives and, abilities or whatever to be dark type. Doesn't really matter. I already explained that. But he does have Restoring Strike 2, which has a 30% chance to restore his HP whenever his attack move hits, and it, procs every time a multi-hit move lands. So you can have up to 2 to 5 hits, and you have a 30% chance with every single hit in order to restore a little bit of HP. So he can be pretty solid in his HP restoration, as well as using the moves here in order to try and activate the Buddy Double Team. So you do have those abilities. And he's got status immunity, being immune to status conditions, universally good, right? If we change him to Dark type, he has Recharging Strike 9, which charges his gauge every time his attack move hits. This does count for AoE moves, meaning every time he lands Brutal Swing, assuming it lands on all enemies, which it realistically should, it's going to recharge 3 gauge for you, meaning he's got even more gauge efficiency, ignoring the fact that he's even able to set gauge acceleration, and has a pretty solid speed tier. So you're realistically not going to need the gauge recharge, but it is obviously going to be useful, right? And he's got Impervious, meaning his stats cannot be lowered. Very, very good for any stage that may want to debuff you, which there are quite a few that, do that, especially extreme battles, right? So this is very nice. Water, of course, has status immunity and restoration. Dark side is focused on, stat debuffing immunity, as well as being able to charge gauge. And, of course, having their unique abilities with Dark Zone physical moves next, as well as Rain, and special moves next. So this guy can work on 2 sides of a coin. Very, very good, right? Especially at 1 out of 5. These abilities, just at 1 out of 5, are really good anyway, right? He's very self-sufficient in the gauge. He's self-sufficient in his healing, stat immunity, stat debuffing immunity, status condition immunity, setting Dark Zone and Rain, special moves next and physical moves next, evasion buffs, attack crit, and special attack buffs. These multi-hit moves here, which are good for activating both his and Serena's, buddy moves. Obviously, he's very, very good in that in those different abilities, as well as, of course, the Master Passive. So, 1 out of 5, he's honestly still really good, right? The Rain and Dark Zone alone are probably his best abilities, right? These are the best abilities, and a lot of the abilities that made people kind of, turn their heads, look at this guy a lot on release. And honestly, it's one of the bigger reasons on why he is still considered a top tier support in the game. Because of these, right? And obviously having the ability to easily activate the buddy move for the most part, considering it affects all allies, right? So like if you have any allies that are doing AoE moves, you're getting -3 countdown on this, right? So it's going to be very quick to activate. And of course you can save it and use it whenever you want to, whenever you need that Dark Zone or Rain. So very, very good stuff, right? Very, very easy to use, whatever. And of course, again, all the abilities from his passive skills, right? Anyway, let's look at the grid here. 1 out of 5. He does have some move gauge refresh on Brutal Swing and Water Shuriken, which are fine, right? Nothing too bad, or nothing, well, not bad at all, but nothing crazy. Combine that with the Recharging Strike 9 here. You can potentially get 4 gauge back from using Brutal Swing once, which I think is definitely very, very nice. Especially in a Legendary Gauntlet, right? Where you need a lot of support management, right? You need to properly ration. So 1 out of 5 is fine, I guess. Nothing insane. 2 out of 5, he does get some other abilities here, such as Umbrella Tenacity, becoming immune to status changes in Dark Zone, Flabbergast 4 on Brutal Swing, Confusion whenever he lands it at a 50% chance, Group Fortification 9, raising the defenses of all allies by 1 when an opponent's move targeting him misses. Obviously, as he raises evasion, it's not going to be too inconsistent, but it's not going to be a crazy ability. But still, being able to buff defenses is very, very nice. Combine that with the Restoring Strike here, and you could potentially get heals and defensive buffs pretty much simultaneously. Very, very good. Train Move NPR, this is also a very, very good ability. It pretty much makes it so that if you somehow get that NPR, you can apply Gauge Acceleration again, buff allies attack to max, buff allies special attack by 4, and crit to max, right? These are very, very strong abilities for sure. NPR is definitely very, very nice. At 2 out of 5, he also gets Water Shuriken Guaranteed Triple, meaning that he is guaranteed to land at least 3 hits on his Water Shuriken, which is the same as his Brutal Swings, so you can definitely, use these to better consistency. You don't have to, potentially have Water Shuriken miss 3 times and only land twice, whatever, or, you know what I mean, right? Only land twice, right? So it's obviously less consistent than Brutal Swing, but obviously now it has the same consistency as Brutal Swing, and it can still hit for higher than just 3. It can still hit 4 or 5 times. Very, very nice. Also got Racing Rain for Gauge Acceleration when in rain, and First Aid 4 for some immediate healing if needed. Definitely very, very nice as well. So these are honestly not bad abilities at 2 out of 5. I wouldn't say they're anything insane or anything worth candying to, but these are pretty good abilities, honestly, for 2 out of 5. Definitely a lot better than a lot of sync pairs in general, just at 2 out of 5. Most sync pairs don't gain this much, which is kind of sad in my opinion, but still. Those are good 2 out of 5 abilities, but of course the meat and potatoes of the sync pair is at 3 out of 5. Team Umbral Restoration 9, restoring HP of all allies when he uses a move in Dark Zone, any move. It can be his Brutal Swing, Water Shuriken, Buddy Double Team, or his Trainer move. If you use a move in Dark Zone, it will be restoring HP. Very, very good. Team Mighty Sync 9, raising allies' physical moves next by 1 after using his Sync move, and Team Sync Think 9, raising special moves next after using his Sync move, depending on which one which one you're focusing on for this specific grid, because generally you're not going to use Rain and Dark Zone or apply special moves once and physical moves the next. You're going to be using one or the other. Just depends from battle to battle, right? So just depends whichever one you need, which one you'll pick up. So yeah. He's got Rain Gear 2, which reduces damage received whenever weather is rainy. That's not a bad ability. Probably wouldn't pick it up because of just overall grid management, but it's not a bad ability for sure if you want longevity. He's got Q Cutter 2, 30% chance to reduce sync countdown by 1 when an enemy misses. RNG reliant, sure, but not bad. Still pretty solid. Team Safe Start applies endurance to all allies when he enters a battle. This is basically safety net. Yeah, safety net, but it's straight up at entry. You don't have to sync move with them, use a sync move rather. You just straight up enter the battle and they'll get endurance. This is a very good ability. This is an extremely good ability, especially for a Legendary Gauntlet where pretty much every bit of survivability counts, and it can be very, very crucial in a stadium just in case, maybe you're close to defeating one of those sides. They use an AoE move, both your characters survive on endurance, and you KO them, right? Something like that may happen, and you can make full abuse of it with this ability. He's got Trainer with Propulsion 9 as well, reducing sync countdown by 1 when it's successful. Combine this with giving him Head Start 1 or something as a lucky skill, and combine it with other characters that have sync countdown. You can get some very fast moves in very, very quickly, get some sync moves in, whatever else. Sync ramping, obviously just a very good strategy in general. Very, very useful, right? Always going to be pretty useful. And then trying to move Critical Squad 1, meaning you don't have to rely on NPR or allies to be able to buff their crit. You can just straight up max out their crit in a single turn, as well as buff their attack by 4 and special attack by 2. And you can be done, right? Not a bad ability at all. Obviously, it would depend on what your allies are or what your strategy is if you would pick this up. But overall, just universally, not a bad ability. Overall, his grid's not bad. The Team Mighty Sync and Sync Think 9 are definitely very, very good abilities for, whichever side of the coin you decide to use. Rain Gear for damage reduction, Umbral Restoration for healing are obviously very, very nice. Q Cutter and Propulsion are very good for Sync Countdown. Team Safe Start is going to be amazing for the Endurance, just both in Stadium and in the Legendary Gauntlet. Very, very good stuff, right? Very, very good stuff. Just depends on what type of battle you're doing, on what you would, pick up here. If I wanted to do a rain set, I may pick up the Guaranteed Strike on Water Shuriken, right? Something like that. And maybe pick up the Rain Gear and do something like this to where I would have this grid. And if I didn't feel like picking up the Propulsion or anything, maybe I'll pick up the Team Safe Start and First Aid 4 for some healing, and I'd be done with that. It just really depends on what your strategy is. I can't really give you any specific grids, as it would depend on what you're going to use them for. Just really, it depends from a case-to-case basis for the most part. Stadium battle, I would say the Team Sync Think plus Rain Gear plus Guaranteed Triple is your minimum. Depends on what else you're doing. If you're running an ally who needs crit buffs and you don't really want to rely on an ally to do that, maybe pick up something like this and then use the leftover 5 energy for something else. Maybe pick up that instead, who knows. Maybe instead you want to pick up the Propulsion. I can see that. Maybe on the opposite side of the spectrum, you want to go for the dark stuff. You can pick up something like this where you got the dark team, the Team Mighty Sync. You don't need Umbral Restoration, but it can be useful, of course, so if you do want to pick that up, go for it. But if you don't want to pick that up, obviously, again, you got First Aid 4, Team Safe Start, Propulsion, Critical Squad, these type of abilities, right? Very diverse in what he can do. He can work in a whole lot of different situations. Legendary Gauntlet, Champion Stadium, probably any sort of high-score event. This guy can work in pretty much any of them, and he will do just fine. This guy is definitely an amazing sync pair. Got a lot of good abilities, a lot of great partners. Built for Neo Champion Serena, they literally mesh together so well. They are one of the best duos in the game for sure, as well as, of course, Calem just being able to work well with pretty much any ally. Combine it with someone like Akari, where Kalem's able to provide Dark Zone, so you don't really have to do too much with Akari. And, of course, Physical Moves next. Going to be boosting Akari to a lot of good strength. Plus, he's able to top off her attack stat here that she's not able to do with her Survey Core teachings. They are a very, very good combination, for example. Combine it with Zinnia, he's able to apply crit buffs that she needs, attack buffs, etc. right before she uses her Buddy Night Slash to just sweep the enemy. You can wait and use it later to whenever you have Dark Zone plus 2 physical moves next, and you can use the Buddy Night Slash then, and then just nuke the enemies into oblivion. Calem is definitely very, very useful for that. And whatever else, right? I could give you a million examples, but really, I'm just telling you, this guy's good outright just in general, right? He's got a lot of good abilities. Mostly, Rain plus special moves next, Dark Zone plus physical moves next. They're just bound to be good, just in general. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on new champion Calem and Greninja. Let me know if you're going to be summoning for him down in the comments below. He is a very good sync pair, right? Still a very good sync pair. Definitely a very, very valuable character to pick up. I'm not going to say I recommend summoning. That's just completely up to you. But he's definitely someone that you will probably not regret pulling for, especially depending on if you need a good rain support / Dark Zone support, or just rain and Dark Zone setter in general. So yeah, I'll see you all later. I hope you all enjoyed.